They said the Niger could never be crossed, not by love, not by hope, and certainly not by a man with foreign dreams. But when Adaeze, the daughter of a proud Igbo chief, locked eyes with a daring missionary on the banks of the river, everything changed. What happens when a love forbidden by tradition and fueled by defiance threatens to tear apart a warrior's pride, a father's legacy, and a village's way of life? Prepare yourself for a story of passion, resistance, and sacrifice, where every choice carries the weight of 1,000 hearts. This is the love that crossed the Niger, a tale that will grip your soul and leave you breathless until the very end. Before we dive deeper into this epic story, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. By subscribing, you won't just be watching, you'll be part of a growing community that celebrates culture, love, and the power of storytelling. Don't miss what happens next in the love that crossed the Niger. Trust me, you'll want to be here until the end. Let us start by introducing the main characters. Obinna, a fearless Igbo warrior, fiercely loyal to his people. Adaeze, the daughter of the village chief, known for her beauty and wisdom. Father Michael, a young, soft-spoken missionary with a gentle demeanor but a fierce determination to bridge two worlds. And now, the story. Adaeze walks along the riverbank, humming a folk tune as she collects herbs. Father Michael watches from a distance, standing by a small wooden cross planted in the ground. Father Michael, to himself, "Who is this woman, so full of grace?" Adaeze looks up, and their eyes meet. She quickly turns away, clutching her basket. Her steps quicken as her heart races. Adaeze, muttering, "What kind of man stares at me with such boldness?" Night falls. The villagers gather around the central fire. Storytelling fills the air, with drums and flutes playing softly. Adaeze, sitting quietly, notices Father Michael standing near the edge of the crowd, speaking to her father, Chief Izudo. "Missionary, why do you come here night after night? Our ways are not yours." Father Michael, smiling. "But your ways are beautiful, Chief. I only wish to learn, and maybe one day, you will allow me to teach." Adaeze listens from the shadows, her curiosity growing. She rises to leave, but Father Michael steps in her path. "Adaeze, is it?" Adaeze freezes, her face stern. "You speak my name so freely. What do you want?" "To understand." Adaeze scoffs but senses sincerity in his voice. "Then understand this, our land, our gods, and our people are not to be changed." Days later, a heavy rainstorm lashes the village. Adaeze is trapped in a small hut near the river. Suddenly, the door opens, and Father Michael enters, drenched but calm. Adaeze, shouting, "What are you doing here? This is my space. The storm is too strong. Let me stay until it passes." Adaeze hesitates but nods, her eyes wary. "Sit there. Do not speak." Father Michael obeys, but the silence is heavy. After a moment, he speaks softly. "Do you hate me so much, Adaeze?" "I hate what you stand for. You come here with your strange ways, wanting to take what is ours. I want only to share love." Father Michael replied. Adaeze turns to him, her eyes flashing. "Love? You speak of love as though it is simple. You cannot understand the weight of our traditions, the sacrifices we make." Father Michael requested, "Teach me, then. Show me what love means to you." Adaeze stares at him, conflicted. The storm outside mirrors the turmoil within her. The storm rages on, thunder echoing across the village. Inside the hut, the tension between Adaeze and Father Michael grows thicker. Adaeze, leaning against the wall, arms crossed. "You speak of love as if it can solve everything. Love does not feed the hungry, it does not bring rain to the farms, and it does not restore the dead." Father Michael replied, calmly. "You're right, Adaeze. Love alone cannot do these things. But it can give us strength to endure, to believe, and to unite in ways we never thought possible. Adaeze narrows her eyes, unsure whether to trust his words. She glances at him, noticing his soaked appearance for the first time. "You'll catch your death if you stay like that." She pulls a woven cloth from the corner and tosses it to him. He catches it with a smile. Father Michael thanked her. He wraps the cloth around his shoulders, his voice softer now. "Adaeze, I don't mean to insult your ways. In fact, I admire them. Your songs, your dances, even the way your people hold on to hope during hard times, it's inspiring." Adaeze, tilting her head. "And yet you still want to change us." "Not change, share. There is a light in your people, a strength, but there is also pain. I've seen it in the eyes of children who have lost everything. Love, Adaeze, is not about taking away what you are. It's about adding to it." His words strike a chord in Adaeze, but she hides it behind a scarf. Adaeze replied, "Your words are clever and missionary. But clever words do not win over hearts here." As the storm begins to ease, Father Michael rises, sensing her inner conflict. "Perhaps not. But I believe hearts like yours are not meant to be won over easily." He gives her a small, respectful bow and steps toward the door. Adaeze watches him leave, a strange feeling stirring within her. The next day, the rain has stopped. The village bustles with activity. Women pound yams in wooden mortars, children chase each other around the huts, and elders sit under a large iroko tree, discussing the events of the previous night. Adaeze walks through the village, carrying a basket of fruits. Whispers follow her. One of the villagers, whispering to her friend, "Did you see them last night? The missionary and the chief's daughter are alone in the hut. This is not right. Adaeze must be careful, or she will bring shame to her family." Adaeze hears the whispers but keeps her head high. She stops by the chief's compound, where her father, Chief Izudo, sits with the elders. Chief Izudo, sternly. "Adaeze, I have heard troubling things." Adaeze kneels respectfully before him, her voice steady. "Father, I have done nothing to dishonor you." "Nothing? Then why does the village speak of you and that missionary? Do you not see the danger he brings?" Adaeze replied. "He is just a man, father. A man with words, nothing more." The elders murmur among themselves, their expressions grave. Chief Izudo's voice lowers, filled with both anger and concern. "Adaeze, you are my daughter and the pride of this village. Do not let foolishness blind you to your responsibilities. You will marry Obinna, as we agreed, and this talk of the missionary will end." Adaeze's heart sinks. She lowers her gaze, hiding the turmoil in her eyes. Adaeze answered, "Yes, father." As she rises and walks away, her resolve hardens. Deep inside, she knows her heart is being pulled in two directions. The sun sets, painting the village in hues of orange and gold. In a clearing near the village, Obinna trains with other warriors, their muscular forms glistening with sweat. Wooden spears clash as they spar, their movements swift and powerful. A messenger runs into the clearing, stopping before Obinna. "Obinna, the elders summon you. They wish to speak of your union with Adaeze." Obinna smirks confidently, planting his spear into the ground. "Finally. It is time for the daughter of Izudo to join her rightful place by my side." Later, Obinna strides into the chief's compound, his warrior's attire accentuating his commanding presence. He greets Chief Izudo with a respectful bow but quickly notices the tension in the air. "Obinna, you are a brave warrior, and you know the customs of our people. But there is a cloud over this union." Obinna, frowning. "A cloud? Speak plainly, my chief." "It is this missionary. He has cast a spell on Adaeze's mind." She listens too closely to his words. Obinna's face hardens, his fist clenching. A stranger dares to come between me and my betrothed. He will learn that the strength of an Igbo warrior is not something to trifle with. Chief Izudo nods approvingly, but his tone remains measured. Do not act out of anger, Obinna. The elders will decide how to deal with the missionary, but Adaeze must be reminded of her duties. Speak to her, remind her where her loyalty lies. Obinna's jaw tightens, and he bows again before leaving. Adaeze sits under a large udala tree, her hands weaving a basket. Her thoughts are far from her task, her mind clouded by conflicting emotions. She thinks of Obinna's fiery strength and Father Michael's calm, gentle eyes. Suddenly, Obinna appears, his presence overwhelming as always. Adaeze stands, setting the basket aside. Adaeze, nervously. Obinna, I did not expect you here. Obinna, sternly. Why do I hear whispers of you and the missionary? Do you not know the shame you bring to me and your father? Adaeze, raising her chin. I have done nothing wrong. The missionary only speaks of his beliefs. Obinna, taking a step closer. And you listen. Do you think his words hold more value than the promises you made to this village? To me. Adaeze's eyes flash with defiance, but there is also guilt. Obinna, I never asked for this union. You speak of promises, but was my voice ever heard? Obinna, gritting his teeth. Your voice is heard now, and it is saying the wrong things. He steps even closer, his tone softening but his intensity unwavering. Adaeze, you are my future. Do not let the words of a stranger destroy what we are meant to build. Adaeze looks away, tears glistening in her eyes, but she says nothing. Obinna watches her for a moment before turning and walking away, his frustration evident. Meanwhile, in the small thatched hut where the missionaries reside, Father Michael kneels in prayer. His colleague, Father Patrick, watches him with concern. Michael, you grow too close to these people. The elders are already suspicious, and the warriors are restless. And yet, Patrick, I cannot ignore what I feel. There is a light in Adaeze, a light that could guide her people if only she could see it herself. Father Patrick, shaking his head. You are treading dangerous waters, my friend. You came here to spread the word, not to lose yourself in the heart of a chief's daughter. Father Michael looks up, his eyes filled with determination. Perhaps it is not my mission that is changing her, Patrick. Perhaps she is the one changing me. The two men sit in silence, the tension palpable. Outside, a storm brews on the horizon, mirroring the conflict within. Night falls, blanketing the village in silence except for the occasional chirping of crickets. Adaeze sits alone under the udala tree, staring at the stars, her mind swirling with thoughts. The gentle rustling of leaves breaks the quiet as Father Michael approaches cautiously. Father Michael, softly. Adaeze. She turns, startled at first, but her expression softens when she sees him. Why are you here? The village is already restless. Your presence will only make things worse. I could not rest knowing the weight you carry. He steps closer, the moonlight casting shadows on his weary face. Adaeze, I see your struggle. I know the choices before you are heavy. But sometimes, the path of love and truth demands that we defy even the strongest traditions. Adaeze's eyes glisten with unshed tears. She looks away, her voice trembling. You speak of love as if it's simple, as if it does not tear apart families, divide villages, and break hearts. Love is never simple. But it is powerful. It has brought me across oceans, and it has brought me to you. Adaeze's breath hitches. She stands abruptly, her emotions threatening to spill over. Stop. You do not understand. You think love is enough, but it is not. My father, Obinna, the entire village, they are my world. You are an outsider. Father Michael's voice grows firmer but remains gentle. I may be an outsider, but my heart has found a home here, with your people and with you. Adaeze, you have a light that could bridge worlds. But only if you are brave enough to follow it. The tension crackles in the air like an impending storm. Before Adaeze can respond, they hear footsteps. She freezes. Adaeze. Obinna steps out of the shadows, his face a mask of fury. He points an accusing finger at Father Michael. So this is where you've been hiding, whispering poison into her ears like a snake in the grass. He storms forward, his hand gripping the hilt of the knife tucked into his waistband. Obinna now turned to Adaeze. Do you see what you've done? You bring shame upon your family, your people. Adaeze steps between them, her voice trembling but strong. Obinna, stop. This is not what it looks like. What is it, then? A thief of souls standing under the stars with my betrothed? This man does not belong here. Father Michael remains calm but steps forward, his hands raised in a gesture of peace. Obinna, I mean no harm to your people or your honor. My only desire is to share what I believe and to learn from you in return. Learn. Learn what? How to destroy a people's pride and replace it with empty words. You will leave here tonight, or you will not leave at all. Adaeze places a hand on Obinna's arm, her voice desperate. Obinna, please. Violence will solve nothing. Obinna glares at her, torn between his anger and the pain in her voice. The scene grows tense as the three stand frozen in the moonlight, their emotions colliding like waves against the banks of the Niger. At dawn, the drums of the village sound, summoning everyone to the Iroko tree where the elders hold council. Villagers gather, murmuring in anticipation. Adaeze, Father Michael, and Obinna are called before the council. One of the elders, angrily. The peace of this village has been disturbed. We are here to decide how to restore it. Obinna steps forward, his voice booming with anger. This stranger does not belong here. He has poisoned Adaeze's mind and insulted our traditions. He must leave. The villagers murmur in agreement, but Father Michael raises his voice, calm yet resolute. I do not seek to replace your traditions. I only wish to show that love and understanding can exist alongside them. I have no desire to take Adaeze away from her people. Another elder, narrowing his eyes. And yet, your presence has caused strife. What can you offer this village that is worth such turmoil? Father Michael hesitates, looking to Adaeze, who steps forward, her voice firm despite her trembling hands. He has shown me a new way to see the world. His words may be foreign, but they are not without wisdom. Should we not listen before we judge? The elders exchange glances, their faces unreadable. Chief Izudo's gaze locks on Adaeze, his voice heavy with authority. This is not just about words, Adaeze. It is about who we are and the future of this village. You speak of wisdom, but wisdom does not come from a place of chaos. Adaeze looks down, torn. The council deliberates, their voices hushed. The crowd watches anxiously as the tension builds. The council's deliberation stretches into a tense silence, with only the soft rustling of leaves breaking the quiet. Suddenly, an elder clears his throat and raises his hand, signaling for attention. It is Elder Adaeze, a man known for his wisdom and cautious judgment. Before we condemn the missionary or tear this village apart with anger, let us ask ourselves, what have we truly learned from his presence? The crowd murmurs, unsure of where the elder is heading. Obinna's glare softens slightly, but he remains tense. Elder Adaeze turns to Father Michael. Missionary, you speak of love and understanding. But love cannot thrive where it sows division. If you are true to your intentions, prove it. Show us that you respect our ways and that your teachings are not meant to uproot, but to grow alongside our roots. Father Michael bows his head respectfully, his voice calm but firm. Elder Adaeze, I have never come to destroy your traditions. I only seek to share what I believe can enrich lives. If there is a way I can prove my sincerity, I will do it. The villagers exchange curious looks. Obinna folds his arms, his expression skeptical. Words are easy. Actions are harder. What could you possibly do to prove you belong here? Elder Adaeze strokes his beard thoughtfully before addressing the gathering. There is a challenge in the way to test the strength of his heart and his intentions. The Festival of Unity begins tomorrow. Let him join us in the rites. If he falters or shows disrespect, then he must leave. But if he succeeds... He pauses, allowing the weight of his words to sink in. Then perhaps he is meant to be among us after all. The crowd reacts with a mix of surprise and approval. Chief Izudo furrows his brow, clearly uneasy, but nods in agreement. Father Michael steps forward, his expression determined. I accept. Whatever the challenge, I will face it with respect and an open heart. Adaeze looks at him, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and admiration. Obinna clenches his fist, his voice rising above the crowd. If this is to be a test, then I, too, will participate. Let him see what true strength and honor mean. Gasps rippled through the villagers. Elder Adaeze nodded solemnly. Elder Adaeze responded. So be it. Let the Festival of Unity decide who stands worthy. The next day, the village is alive with the sounds of drums and the vibrant colors of celebration. Men and women wear traditional attires adorned with cowrie shells and beads. Children laugh and run around the festival grounds, while elders sit in a circle, observing with solemn pride. Father Michael, dressed in a simple white tunic gifted by Elder Adaeze, stands at the edge of the crowd. Adaeze approaches him, carrying a small carved pendant. Adaeze talks softly. This was my mother's. She wore it for courage during difficult times. Take it. You need it more than I do. She presses the pendant into his hand, her fingers lingering for a moment. Father Michael looks at her, his gratitude evident. Thank you, Adaeze. I will not fail. Before she can respond, the loud blare of a horn signals the beginning of the rites. Obinna steps into the circle first, his warrior's frame commanding respect. The villagers cheer as he raises his arms confidently. Elder Adaeze, announcing. The rites will test three virtues: strength, wisdom, and unity. Let the first challenge begin. The first challenge involves lifting a massive log and carrying it across a marked distance. Obinna completes it effortlessly, his muscles straining but his expression triumphant. He casts a smug glance at Father Michael, who steps forward next. Father Michael grips the log, his face tense with effort. The crowd watches in hushed anticipation. Though he struggles, he manages to carry the log to the finish line, earning scattered applause and murmurs of approval. Obinna's confidence wavers slightly, but he masks it with a smirk. Obinna talked to Father Michael quietly. Strength is only the beginning, missionary. Let's see how far your resolve goes. Father Michael meets his gaze evenly, his voice calm. Strength comes in many forms, Obinna. Night falls after the first day of the Festival of Unity. Villagers gather around the central fire, recounting tales and enjoying the feast. Despite the lively atmosphere, tension simmers beneath the surface as Obinna keeps a watchful eye on Father Michael and Adaeze. The two stand near the fire, speaking in hushed tones. Adaeze talking to Father Michael, softly. You surprised them today. Even my father didn't expect you to carry the log. Father Michael, smiling faintly. Strength isn't just about the body. It's about the heart. Adaeze looks at him, her expression torn between admiration and worry. But strength alone won't win their respect. You're walking a path that no one here has ever walked before. So are you, Adaeze. Before she can respond, Obinna approaches, his footsteps heavy with purpose. His voice cuts through their conversation like a knife. Adaeze, your place is not with him. Adaeze stiffens, but her voice remains calm as she turns to face Obinna. And where is my place, Obinna? By your side, watching you fight every man who disagrees with you. Obinna's eyes flash with anger, but he quickly masks it. He steps closer to Adaeze, his voice low and forceful. You are my betrothed. You dishonor me by entertaining this intruder. Adaeze takes a step back, her voice rising with defiance. I dishonor no one by listening to another's truth. What I do dishonor is a man who believes he can claim my heart without earning it. The villagers near the fire grow quiet, sensing the tension. Obinna's jaw tightens as he turns to Father Michael, his voice dripping with disdain. You've done enough damage here, missionary. Tomorrow, the second challenge will show this village who truly belongs and who does not. Father Michael, calmly. If your goal is to prove yourself, Obinna, then let the challenges speak for us both. There's no need for hostility. Obinna, smacking. You mistake my intentions, missionary. This is not about you. It's about reminding Adaeze where she truly belongs. Father Michael's face remains steady, but his eyes betray a flicker of concern. Adaeze steps between the two men, her voice sharp. Enough, Obinna. Your fight is not with him but with your own pride. Obinna glares at her, his fist clenching, but before he can respond, Elder Adaeze's voice rises from the fire circle. The night is for peace, not quarrels. Let us prepare for tomorrow's trials, for they will test more than muscles. They will test the spirit. The villagers murmur in agreement. Obinna takes one last, lingering look at Adaeze before turning and walking away. Father Michael watches him go, then turns to Adaeze. He loves you. Adaeze, bitterly. He loves control, not me. Her words hang heavy in the air as the fire crackles. The scene shifts to Obinna standing alone on the outskirts of the village, his face illuminated by the faint glow of firelight. He stares into the distance, his expression a mix of anger and deep pain. In his heart, Obinna paces restlessly. His closest friend, Chijioke, watches him with concern. Obinna, this anger will consume you. Why does this missionary trouble you so? It's not just him, Chijioke. It's Adaeze. She looks at him as if he's unlocked a part of her heart that I could never touch. Perhaps because you see her as something to win, not as someone to understand. Obinna pauses, his brow furrowing. Love is not a battlefield, Obinna. If you want her to choose you, give her a reason beyond tradition. Obinna sits heavily on the wooden stool, his head in his hands. Chijioke places a hand on his shoulder. Tomorrow's challenge will test more than strength. It will test wisdom and humility. Show her the man you can be, not the man you think you have to be. Obinna looks up, his expression softening slightly. I don't know if I can. You can. But only if you fight for her with your heart, not your pride. Morning dawns, and the village gathers once again. This time, the trial is one of wisdom, a riddle posed by the elders. Father Michael and Obinna stand side by side before the council, their faces tense but determined. Elder Adaeze steps forward. Wisdom is a light that guides the soul. Today's challenge will reveal whose light shines brightest. Listen carefully. He pauses, letting the crowd fall silent before delivering the riddle. I am not alive, yet I grow. I do not have eyes, yet I see. I do not have lungs, yet I breathe. What am I? The crowd murmurs as both men contemplate the riddle. Adaeze watches anxiously from the sidelines, her hands clasped tightly. Obinna frowns, his mind racing. Father Michael closes his eyes, his lips moving silently in prayer. Moments pass before Father Michael steps forward. The answer is fire. Gasps ripple through the crowd as Elder Adaeze nods solemnly. That is correct. Obinna's face tightens, but he does not lash out. Instead, he steps forward, addressing the elders directly. Father Michael may have solved the riddle, but wisdom is more than words. Let the final trial decide. The crowd cheers, eager for the climax of the Festival of Unity. The sun reaches its zenith, casting long shadows over the village square where the villagers gather for the final trial. Anticipation buzzes through the crowd. The elders sit solemnly in their carved seats, and the air is heavy with expectation. Adaeze stands near the edge, her heart racing as she glances at Father Michael and Obinna, both standing poised for the final challenge. Elder Adaeze addressing the audience. The last trial is the most difficult, for it tests the essence of unity, the ability to sacrifice for another. Today, we ask not who is strongest or wisest, but who possesses the heart of a leader. The crowd quiets, murmuring in curiosity. Elder Adaeze points to a large clay pot in the center of the square. Smoke rises from its opening, carrying the acrid scent of burning herbs. Inside this vessel burns the heart of the flame, a fire symbolizing the spirit of our ancestors. To pass this trial, you must reach into the fire and retrieve the sacred stone that lies at its heart. But be warned, this is not a test of endurance, it is a test of purpose. Only a pure heart can withstand the flame. Gasps ripple through the crowd. Adaeze's hand flies to her mouth, her eyes darting between the two men. Father Michael's expression tightens, while Obinna's jaw clenches in determination. Elder Adaeze. Who among you will face the fire first? Obinna steps forward without hesitation, his voice strong. Obinna. I will. The crowd cheers as Obinna strides toward the pot. He kneels beside it, his face hard with concentration. Slowly, he plunges his hand into the fire, his muscles tensing as the heat sears his skin. The crowd holds its breath as he searches for the stone, sweat dripping from his brow. After an agonizing moment, Obinna pulls his hand free, clutching a charred stone. He rises, holding it aloft, his expression a mix of triumph and pain. The crowd erupts into applause, but Adaeze's gaze remains fixed on Father Michael, who now steps forward. Father Michael, calmly. My turn. The villagers fall silent, their eyes fixed on the missionary. As Father Michael kneels beside the pot, he closes his eyes and murmurs a quiet prayer. Then, with deliberate resolve, he plunges his hand into the fire. A hush falls over the crowd as he grimaces, his lips moving silently in supplication. Unlike Obinna, Father Michael does not pull his hand out immediately. He seems to be searching, his face etched with pain but also determination. The crowd watches in tense silence, some murmuring prayers, others exchanging nervous glances. Finally, he withdraws his hand, holding the stone high. His palm is burned, but his expression is serene. The crowd erupts into cheers, louder than before, as Father Michael steps back, breathing heavily. As the crowd settles, Elder Adaeze rises, his expression unreadable. Both men have passed the trial. But only one has shown the true heart of unity. The elders confer in hushed tones, their faces solemn. The villagers wait anxiously, Adaeze's heart pounding in her chest. Finally, Elder Adaeze raises his hand for silence. Obinna, you have proven your strength and your willingness to endure for the sake of tradition. Father Michael, you have demonstrated the courage to embrace our ways and the wisdom to seek understanding. He pauses, his gaze sweeping over the crowd before settling on Adaeze. But this trial is not just for these men. It is for us all to see who truly carries the spirit of unity. The choice of who will lead this village into harmony rests not with us, but with Adaeze. The crowd gasped in surprise. Obinna's eyes widen, his face flushing with anger and disbelief. Father Michael's expression is one of quiet acceptance. Obinna, angrily. This is not her choice to make. She. Elder Adaeze, family. Silence, Obinna. The leader must also listen. Adaeze steps forward, her hands trembling. She looks between Obinna and Father Michael, her eyes filling with tears. The weight of the village's future hangs on her shoulders. The villagers lean forward, holding their breath as they await her decision. Adaeze stands at the center of the square, her breath shallow as the weight of the village's eyes presses upon her. She looks at Obinna, his burned hand trembling but his eyes blazing with determination. She shifts her gaze to Father Michael, whose calm demeanor masks the pain etched in his face. Her lips part as if to speak, but before the words come, an unexpected voice cuts through the tension. Stranger's voice, booming. This decision cannot be hers alone. Gasps ripple through the crowd as a figure emerges from the edge of the gathering. It is Nneka, Adaeze's mother, who had long been thought lost to exile after a bitter dispute with the council years ago. She wears the marks of a wanderer, her hair streaked with silver and her clothes worn but regal. Her presence is commanding, and the villagers whisper in awe and disbelief. Elder Adaeze, startled. Nneka, you dare return here? Nneka, resolute. I return because my daughter stands at a crossroads. This is not just about a man or a trial, it is about the soul of this village. The villagers murmur as Nneka strides forward, placing herself beside Adaeze. She looks at her daughter with a mix of pride and sorrow. Adaeze, you carry a heavy burden, but you do not carry it alone. Let me remind this council, this village, and these men of what unity truly means. She turns to Obinna, her gaze piercing. You see this as a battle for your pride. But pride builds walls, not bridges. Adaeze is not yours to claim. She is a woman of her own will. Obinna opens his mouth to protest but falters under her stern gaze. Nneka then turns to Father Michael. And you, missionary, though your heart may be pure, you are a stranger in our land. Unity is not something you can bring, it is something we must build together. Father Michael bows his head, accepting her words with humility. Nneka addresses the crowd, her voice rising. The heart of the flame was never meant to burn for one person alone. Its light must guide us all. If we are to thrive, we must see beyond this moment, beyond these trials, and find a path that honors both tradition and change. Elder Adaeze rises, his expression thoughtful. Elder Adaeze. Nneka speaks truth. The fire tests the individual, but unity requires the strength of the collective. He looks to the council, who nods in agreement. Turning back to Adaeze, he speaks with a softer tone. Adaeze, the choice remains yours, but consider this, whom you choose today must not only love you but also love this village enough to lead it with wisdom and humility. Adaeze eyes well with tears as she looks at her mother, then at the two men. The crowd leans in, silent and tense. Suddenly, Nneka steps back into the crowd, giving her daughter space. Adaeze finally speaking. I will not choose between them. Not yet. This village needs more than a warrior or a missionary. It needs healing. And for that, we need time. Her words send a ripple of shock through the crowd. Obinna stiffens, and Father Michael looks at her with a mix of respect and disappointment. Elder Adaeze nods slowly, his voice solemn. Elder Adaeze. Then so be it. The festival ends, but the fire burns on. Let us see if it can light a path to the future we seek. The villagers erupt in mixed reactions, some murmuring in agreement, others in discontent. Adaeze steps away from the square, her heart heavy but resolute. Nneka follows, placing a comforting hand on her daughter's shoulder as the two disappear into the crowd. The sun sets over the village as life returns to a fragile normalcy. The aftermath of the festival lingers in every corner, whispers of discontent, murmurs of hope, and the heavy silence of uncertainty. The villagers begin to divide into quiet factions, some loyal to Obinna's strength, others drawn to Father Michael's humility, and a few inspired by Adeze's refusal to conform. Village Square, the divided crowd. Elder Adaeze stands with the council under the shade of the great Iroko tree, their voices low and strained. Nneka stands nearby, arms crossed, her watchful gaze piercing through their deliberations. Elder Okafor grimly. Adeze's choice, or lack of it, has unsettled the village. It has set us on a dangerous path of division. Elder Adaeze speaking. Change always brings tension, Okafor. The question is, can we guide it without letting it consume us? Nneka steps forward, her voice calm but firm. What consumes us is not Adeze's defiance, but the council's unwillingness to adapt. For too long, you've clung to traditions as if they were shields against the future. This village must learn to bend, or it will break. The elders fall silent, some nodding thoughtfully while others bristle at her words. Elder Adaeze sighs deeply, his eyes heavy with the weight of leadership. Then perhaps the fire was not just a trial for them, it was a test for us all. Obinna stands alone at the riverbank, skipping stones across the water. His burned hand is bandaged, but the pain in his heart is far greater. Chijioke approaches, his face filled with quiet concern. Chijioke. You've been quiet since the festival. Obinna, bitterly. What is there to say? I fought for her, and I lost. Did you lose her? Or did you lose yourself? Obinna glares at him, but the words hit deep. He sits heavily on a rock, staring at his reflection in the water. Adeeze doesn't want a man who fights for her like a prize. She wants a partner who sees her as an equal. Until you can do that, you'll never win her heart. Obinna's fists clench, but his shoulders slump as the truth of Chijioke's words sinks in. Inside the mission house, Father Michael kneels before the small altar, his burned hand resting on the Bible. His face is a mix of pain and prayer. Father Michael, whispering. Lord, I came here to bring your word, but it is I who have learned a lesson. How do I lead people who do not want to be led? He closes his eyes, his voice trembling. If unity is your will, show me the way. Let me be a light, not a shadow. A soft breeze rustles the open window, and his face softens as though he has found an answer in the silence. Adeeze and Nneka sit beneath the great Iroko tree as the village sleeps. The stars shine brightly above, casting a serene glow over their faces. Adeeze to her mother. Mother, I feel torn. No matter what I do, someone will be hurt. Leadership is not about avoiding pain, Adeeze. It is about guiding others through it. You may not have chosen a man, but you have chosen a path of unity. Adeeze, thoughtfully. But can this village truly unite? Nneka, smiling. Unity is not perfection, my child. It is the willingness to struggle together, to see each other not as enemies but as part of the same whole. The fire you lit today will take time to spread, but it will burn brighter than any flame before it. Adeeze leans against her mother's shoulder, her heart filled with both hope and resolve. The next morning, the village begins anew, with subtle but visible changes. Obinna helps an elder carry firewood, his expression softer, his steps slower. Father Michael tends to the sick without preaching, his actions speaking louder than words. Adeeze walks among the villagers, her presence a quiet reminder of the unity they seek. Elder Adaeze gathers the council and the villagers around the Iroko tree, his voice steady. The fire may have tested two men, but its light must guide us all. Let this festival remind us that strength, wisdom, and love are not enemies, they are threads of the same cloth. Together, we weave our future. The villagers nod, their faces hopeful as they begin to disperse. Adeeze watches them go, her heart steady. She glances at Obinna and Father Michael, who exchange a brief, respectful nod. The journey is far from over, but for the first time, the path forward feels possible. Adaeze speaking. The fire of unity does not burn for one, it burns for all. It is a flame we must tend together, through love, sacrifice, and the courage to see each other not as rivals, but as family. The last scene shows the glowing ember of the heart of the flame, slowly fading into darkness. This is not just a story, it is a lesson for us all. How do we navigate love, tradition, and change without losing who we are? If this tale has moved you, inspired you, or made you question your own path, hit that subscribe button and join us for more timeless stories of wisdom and unity.